There's a glen in old Tyrconnell. There's a cottage in that glen where dwell an Irish colleen who charms the heart of men. She was handsome, hale and hearty, shining graceful as the dawn. It was that widow's daughter, happy laughing, no reborn, till one day there came a letter with her passage paid to go to the land where the Missouri and the Mississippi flow. So she said farewell to Erin, and next morning at the dawn, that poor broken-hearted mother bid farewell to Noreenbawn. Many years that widow waited, till one morning at the door stood a gorgeous-looking lady, costly were the clothes she wore, saying, "Mother, oh, don't you know me? I have only caught a cold."
This documentary was very important because it shows the community how we used to live in the past when we had campsites on the side of the road. Our traditions, our cultures, and our strong heritage. Through forced assimilation, oppression, and discrimination, being excluded and marginalised to the sidelines for so many years, a lot of young people have lost a sense of their own identity, where they come from. Our young travellers haven't had the opportunity to experience such a beautiful community and traditions. It's important that we keep these memories alive so we can talk about them now in the present, so that our future generations will get the opportunity to see what it's like. Our nomadic Indigenous heritage is very, very important to us. We are a community, a small community of travellers, 1% here in Ireland. And I do believe that the young people need to know this. Where you come from and who you are is nothing to be ashamed of. It's very, very important to know that. You are equal to anybody. And this is why this documentary needs to be shown. It needs to be shared, not just with the traveller community, the young travellers, with other communities. I would love to see this documentary in schools. I would love to see it in institutions. I would love to see it as part of public sector duty training. There's this issue of if you can't see it, you can't be it. A lot of people don't want to see what our community is like because they prefer to pretend we don't exist. But we do exist. We're a strong, resilient community and we're not going anywhere. I would have denied in the past that I would have been a traveller. You know, there would have been times when people wouldn't even know I was. Definitely working with the Galway Traveller Movement has changed the dynamics for me. And once I actually opened up the research and looked at it, it changed everything for me because I needed to educate myself, because for too long I was trying to deny who I was. Too long I just thought, oh, if I just merge into society, I'll be more accepted. If I merge into society, I'll be treated the way everyone else is treated. Unless you walk a mile in my shoes, you're not going to understand me. So I need to share my story. And I don't care about the negativity. I don't care about the discrimination. I don't care about your trolls. I want to get my story out there because we need to create our own positive narrative. We are still being sidelined, and if you're different, you're not wanted, and it's terrible because they're losing so much talent. You know what I mean? That would actually embrace this country. They're losing it because of their own ideas, opinions and rigid beliefs. Just there a few months ago, data came out of Ireland that Ireland is not a racist country because it's not been documented. And I would say this to any members of the community that I'm talking about. I don't care what it is. If you feel you've been discriminated, document it. My family, the older generation, lived on the side of the road. My father was a tinsmith and he made all the buckets. My father would buy the tin in the local, say, DIY store at the time, or he would go to the farmers and repair bins and stuff like that, and they would give him some galvanised and stuff, and he would make buckets and bins for them. And it's important to understand the travellers were the first recyclers. So my father would recycle tin, he would recycle galvanised, you know. He would even go and get a boiler, the people in the houses would give him the old copper boiler. My father would turn that into coal scuttles. So he recycled anything, there was no waste. Make their tents, they'd get the branches of the ash tree and they'd leave them water soaking so that they'd be able to manipulate them into shape, and again they'd buy the covers in the local shop. The straw then they get from the farmers. The traveller men will go to the woods, and obviously that time the farmers were very easygoing. They had no problem with the travellers getting the branches of the tree, and they get them the ash tree. So they break the branches and they'd leave them in little streams overnight, so that would soften the branches so they could manipulate them into the shape like this for their tent. And then obviously their covers, they would get the covers, they'd buy them in the shop. Or sometimes if the farmers had them where it might be covering hay or stuff like that, they might give them to the travellers. They'd always get them, like, you know what I mean? This documentary showcases traveller traditions, such as healers, going to holy wells, which is very important within our community because we have a strong religious community. We also go back to the campsite, and this is so important because here we look at making the griddle bread, making paper flowers and tinsmithing. It's like going back in time to connect with my traveller Indigenous nomadic roots. It's such a beautiful experience. We need to share it with the wider community, with not just the traveller community, but community in general, because it will actually open up positive communication. It's the travellers with great belief in holy wells. Travellers would travel far and wide to go to holy wells because the belief of the cures. And again, if they ask a request, they'll always leave something in the trees, like relics or holy medals or beads. And I remember as a child going to holy wells with my father and mother, and they would do the rosary around them. And this one is a cure of the eyes, cure of the skin, if you have eczema. People have said that they would have received the requests coming to this well. And it's a beautiful well. It must be hundreds of years, centuries old. So those are very personal possessions, those beads, and people will leave them and ask and hoping to get their request. And most people say, yes, I did get my request, you know. And sometimes money would be thrown into the well, and I don't see much, but I'm sure if we look down at the bottom of that, you'll probably see money. People would throw some money in as well. Some of those things are years old. It could be 20, 30 years that those beads are left up there. Nobody's allowed to touch them. Like, if you come here, you couldn't take something. That's someone's personal. Travellers are very superstitious. You know, they don't touch anyone else's holy beads or stuff like that. You know, you just leave your own. Because that's someone's personal prayer. So you respect that. If you just think back times, people probably come here in really sad, probably down kneeling for our Lord, begging for help and get the requests. I do believe in the power of God, and I do believe in, my faith is strong. We believe in God. We believe that God can cure all ailments, and if we go to healers and we come to wells, our faith keeps us going, our faith keeps us strong. I grew up with beliefs and superstitions. I know there's no leprechauns or fairies. Still, I would find it very hard to actually put my foot into a fairy fort. I won't lie. So, where we lived in Clontuskert, there was one up in the field. You see the hares and rabbits playing in it, but it's just traditions, you know.
We were very big believers, children, on leprechauns and things like that, you know. Travellers are great storytellers and great ghost storytellers as well. So that's where we used to entertain ourselves as children, telling ghost stories. We put the fear of God into ourselves, we still do it. If I spill salt now, I'd still have to throw some over my shoulder. I'll bless my face. There's one there about breaking mirrors and things like that, or see a black cat in front of you, or see a magpie. There's lots more that I suppose we've grown out of, but I know people would still travel, even though maybe they might still have to go to somewhere else. So, you know, if they heard there was a healing priest, we go to a healing priest. We've all done it. There was like the seventh dog, like Tina.
I have a cure for ringworm. Well, if people believe in it, like if you come to me, it's 3 turns, you come every second day. If you come Monday, you have to come Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If you break the cycle, you have to start it back again. I was blessed when I was born because I was the 7th daughter when I was christened. My father found out when he brought me fishing, and he handed me the worms to put on the line, and I killed every one of them. A worm would die if I touch it. I could have people coming every couple of months. Now, I don't take money because you're selling your cure. So I'm not the kind that don't accept money. If people went now, when my kids were younger, they wanted to bring maybe a fruit basket or bring sweets for the kids, but no, I never took money. I don't believe in it. There isn't many of them left around to tell us. Like, there's bits and pieces you'd know yourself. Like, even for, if you have warts, when we were told years ago, you know how there's a hole in the wall and there's a puddle? You bless your hand, your warts will go. Or bury some straw, and it gets rid of warts. But this is all old traveller traditions. Years ago they never went to doctors, it's just now. It's kind of passed on. Like, I wouldn't know much. I only know I have a cure. And for a long time I wouldn't tell people about it. Because, you know, you'd be kind of ashamed. Like, all of mine know I have the cure, and like, my cure is in my tongue. Cross on my fingers. So you could have it anywhere in your body. Like, I wouldn't get disgusted with it, but people might. When I was young, this is what I did, but I've never told what to do. I don't know. I can't tell you that part. All I know is that I killed a load of worms, and and I didn't know what it was. They wouldn't bring me fishing after that.
Started making flowers about 9-year-old. My mother used to have a horse and cart, and she used to go out and sell the flowers, and she used to sell the earrings and things, you know, little jokes, tell fortunes and all that. And she said to me, if you come up with me, you ride the horse and cart. And it was a great thing years. It was like driving the car years ago, you know, I was mad to do it. And I have 9 brothers, you know, like, and we're all mad to do it. But you like me the best, so come at me and you can do it. So I used to go there, start making flowers. For years after, people used to laugh, look at you call me all different names, tomboy, whatever, you name it, I was called it. And I stopped making when I was about, say, 14. And I didn't make them until I got to Galway. When I seen the women make them, in the Galway travel movement, I said, I could make better flowers than them. And they didn't even think I was a traveller, you know. You couldn't do that, and I did, and I was sick. And they didn't make flowers no more. And I had a hard time in Galway. Only for Margaret helped me, I'd have been, you know, I would have killed somebody, especially the guard. Because every 24 hours used to chase me around. You have to move, you have to move. And the Galway travel movement come and stick beside me with the banners. No women, just men. It was good. Then after a while they moved on to the site. The day before we went to court, about 18 months before we went to court, then we went to the site. And everything settled down from there. And I started working with the Galway travel movement. I done it for good few years, till I got too old and then retire. But every time they want me to do something, I'll do it for them, because they help me. And that's the sort of person I am. People buy them, some people swap a bit of food if they had no money. Well, my mother was great, like, you know. She wasn't a greedy woman. If those other tribes had nothing, she'd make a pot of stew for everybody. The tribes didn't have nothing. She went to France with the Galway tribe movement.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And met some other gypsies over there. Now, you could speak to them because we had jokes. When you speak to them, it come out our language. When they spoke to us, come out, you know, like. So it was nice. And they were the same. They lived in trailers, they lived in wagons before they had the trailers. They lived in tents before they had the trailers. All the same. And they were nice people. So we travelled all over Ireland, all over England, Scotland, Wales, you know, different places. And we're always in the flowers, doesn't matter where we went to. But you can mix colours if you want, you know. I think the last ones I met, blue and yellow. When you're making flowers, there's all different ways to do it. You have to pull them, stretch them. There's a bit of hardness with it, with the wind's blowing. But flowers not the only thing you can do. I can make wagons one time. I can't now because of arthritis. But I can make little four-wheeler carts, little flat carts. Can't do them no more. But I still have brothers who can do that.
So anyway, just drop a bit of buttermilk and water. So I like the griddle bread though. The griddle bread is nicer because you can just put it on top of the oven. But this one I'm going to put it into, I'm going to cover it up. So it's the cake bread. So you can use either the wholemeal or I just have the self-raising flour here.
My mother used to do the griddle bread. And you see the stand there. And if we didn't have a stand, we used to use stones to make a stand for either the oven or the griddle bread. Put the coals underneath it and put some on the lid of the oven. There is no measurements. You just use your head.
Just going to put it here at the side of the road, or side
How
of
we're
the
going
fire.
to it's only tongues. So throw them up on top of you. There you go.
We always do this because then the bread never burns, even though you might think
I
it's
don't think
decided.
that part is in enough now.
No, it's fine there, Annie. It's
Are
fine
you
there,
sure?
yeah. Standing then, we put our griddle bread and we put it on and we get a little bit of country butter.
Came out lovely now.
Well, it's some soup. They're absolutely
Lovely.
very, very tasty.
My mother used to have to beg, right? And I was actually only telling a story downstairs about when I used to go with her, right? And look at, I suppose me at that age, and I was going to school in town, and she'd be going to houses there where the people, some of the girls would be in my school, and I used to get a little bit embarrassed. I used to hide behind walls, but there was always some lovely stories, right? You get kids that'd be nice to us and you get kids that wouldn't be too nice to us, you know. And I still have some friends from back that time when I would be in school. They would be in the settled community and that. But I remember one time when we were off now, and it was a good bit outside town, she'd walk, and I just remember going in the gate of the house and just seeing all the chickens running around, and when we'd be walking through them, I'd always kind of love that, just seeing the chickens and that. And mostly what we get in that house then would probably be the spuds and eggs, you know. And when we lived down Pullboy, in the house down Pullboy, there would have been a settled woman that'd be up from us. So any time then that my mother she would always go short because she had so many to feed and that. and she'd send us up to the house and we could get a bit of cabbage, we'd get eggs. At Easter time, we'd always have a boiled egg or a fried egg, whatever, and that was a good treat for us now. It really was. You know, she had a lot to feed there and we were never hungry, never, because she used to bake these big massive cakes, right? She'd do a dinner, but she wouldn't do it for only all of us. That if 20 kids came into our house, they would be all fed. And that was, but I think it's the same with a lot of travellers, because I'd be the same myself. Even when my kids, when they were younger, when they'd bring in friends, and even still today as the lads are older, if there was 20 kids there, that all get fed. Nobody'd ever leave without getting something.
We are so much part of this land. People tend to think the travellers are, you know, they're displaced from the famine. We are not displaced from the famine. There is a certain amount there would be. We can trace our heritage culture back to the 12th century. Those Irish that were in forgot where they came from and forgot that, okay, I don't like, you know, you're indigenous, you know, you're nomads, you're dirty, you're this, you're that, whatever. I want to push you to society because you're not a nice picture. So I'll push you to the margins of society, you know, and we'll create this utopian society where travellers aren't involved in. The government needs to take responsibility because they're allowing this discrimination, they're allowing this racism, they're allowing this bias. It's institutional, you know, and it is othering, that we're part of this othering where, you know, we're the last form of racism. That's what the travellers are. I always have this memory of being a child and on a summer day going with my parents to the country. And there's one special thing that she did. She would take a piece of a twig from the trees or the hedgerows and she'd leave it on the road. And as a child I was very curious, what was she doing? What's it called? And it's called the pattern, and the pattern was so my father would know. So I just kind of put a poem together of maybe one of that day, just take a day out, and this is a memory of that day. So my poem's called The Pattern. And my mother laid the pattern along the dusty road, so my father would know where to find us, to take our heavy load. The country lanes were empty as we walked that summer's day, our faces cooled by the breeze as the afternoon began to fall away. My father was a tinsmith, working for the farmers to mend their pots and pans, the hammer held firmly in his strong, work-worn hands. The roadside was his workshop, his stool, the grassy lane, and sometimes the hammer slipped and he would roar out in pain. Me and my mother would go to the farmhouse, not knowing what was in store, as she greeted the children with the words, "Tell your mommy there's a tinker at the door." The farmer's wife was generous, giving plenty of food to eat, and if I was lucky, I might get a little treat. But there were times it wasn't always nice, when my mother was welcomed into the house, and the children would laugh and call me names, and I cowered behind her like a frightened little mouse. But those days are gone forever now. My parents have passed on too, but the memories of those bygone days still linger strong and true. And that little child still visits me, and we travel back to that country lane of those happy memories of my mother laying the pattern, but they're now etched with loneliness and pain.
I once had a true love, but now I have none. And since he had left me, I cried all alone. And since he had left me, contented I'll be. for he loves another, one better than me. So green grows the laurels, and soft falls the dew, and sorrow was my love when parting from you. But at our next meeting, I hope you'll prove true, and we'll change the green laurels from red, white to blue. I pass my love's window both early and late. The looks that he gave me, my poor heart will break. The looks that he gave me a thousand would kill, for he hates and he tests me, but I love him still.